Many businesses want to focus on AI, but becoming an AI-centric company is not a simple matter. AI models are only as good as the data that fuels them, and there's a lot at stake. Poor data could lead to erroneous and even dangerous AI output. Smart IT leaders recognize that maturity is needed when it comes to AI, and that means building a solid data foundation before embarking on major AI projects. Hi, I'm Stan Gibson for CIO Marketing Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for this video webcast brought to you by Telium. Joining me to explore how to gain AI maturity are two experts. Sav Katan, Vice President of Product Marketing at Telium. Welcome, Sav. It's great to have you here for this webcast.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Also with us, Drew Halsh, Director of Solutions Consulting at Telium. Welcome, Drew. Glad you could be with us today.
Thank you. Great to be here, Stan, and excited to be diving into the topic of all AI maturity.
Well, to begin, Sav and Drew, how do you define data maturity? And Drew, perhaps you'd like to go first.
Yeah, absolutely. So with maturity, we really think of it as a spectrum of different types of maturity. And many times organizations are somewhere along the spectrum of we haven't started yet, so maybe everything must have AI. And so when we think about data maturity itself, it really comes from, are we actually getting value from the data in which we're collecting? And do we have agility with the data we're collecting? And really the right tools and teams and processes really allow you to have the ultimate data maturity. We really see and work with various companies that lie somewhere on the spectrum, but we also ultimately help them up towards a greater data maturity.
And so much over the years has changed with how easily data can be used, how much intelligence you can get from it, what decisions you can make from it. But that really is driven by how it's organized and how easily you're able to use it in different parts of the ecosystem. And AI is the one application that's making that data maturity come right to the top as a factor. So, yeah.
So what are the leading causes of poor data quality?
The one of the main causes of poor data quality is, and it's actually not bad quality, it's more that all the different tools create data in different languages. So then when you try to put it together, it doesn't mesh, almost like you take currencies from all different denominations and just throw it together. It's all money, but it doesn't work together yet. So it's the same thing with data quality. The main causes are either data is not standardized, it's not normalized, it has a lot of errors, it has a lot of gaps. Maybe it's not available. Maybe you need access the data in a few seconds, but it takes 10 minutes to come through. So there's just so many aspects to the data now. And consent is becoming another very big factor. So between standardization, error rate, consent, the types of data you need and how much you have, all your gaps, all those things combined, they affect a lot on how much you can get out of your data.
Yeah, and to add on to that, it's just the availability of the data as well. Many times we see poor data quality as something that isn't giving the organization any value, where actually good data is providing some value for the organization, whether it be insights or actually leading to new revenue. So really that's kind of the key distinction that we see alongside of all of the very specific things Sav mentioned.
Let's talk about the implications for AI. What AI problems can arise from a weak data foundation?
Well, there's various problems that can arise from this weak data foundation, and really it's the time to insight in which we see is kind of a key problem with this weak data foundation. And what we mean by that many times is that organizations are collecting data today, and there's a lot of data within the organizations, all in various formats and various places. But what is the time does it take to actually take this information, put it into place, translate the variables and make it usable so that a team, whether it be a data scientist or BI team, can actually go make use of this data and create insights from it. So really a weak data foundation is just creates extra steps that create delays into time to insight. Additionally, with a weak data foundation is many times those insights, they may live only within one team, and they may live with only one silo within the organization. So what does that lead to? It leads to that this turns into just a smaller project rather than something that can be enterprise-wide. So good data foundation makes data accessible to the organization, and it takes the project in which we're working on and then actually scales it and makes it to an enterprise-wide project versus just something that is a science project within the organization. I think something that will kind of paint a backdrop is I'll walk through a couple of things on what we see organizations doing and where they're kind of working towards. And so when they're running towards, and we really think of this is on the topic of AI, is that running towards AI powered everything, but we kind of actually bucket these into two distinct areas. One is around AI powered customer experiences, so really our external facing AI applications. And the other is AI powered internal insights and productivity. So we really think of these two large buckets of what does good data provide and what are the AI projects that are being deployed within the enterprise. But ultimately, we're leading to kind of actually a complexity within this because we know that customer experiences is an omni-channel customer experience. There's so many different touch points in which we have teams assigned to running campaigns, leveraging data to create a better personalized customer experience to the individual. Additionally, every tool that you have is now incorporating AI, and each of these large internal insights like a data lake, a data warehouse, a CRM, or BI tool, or other type of customer data tools, these all are going to incorporate AI, and they all have the ability to deploy AI models inside of the data sets. So really, if we're running towards this goal of AI powered everything, we're actually running towards a very complex goal of how do we actually associate and unify this data across from any of these channels. And it leads us to various decisions like, where do I start? Do I start with one channel? Do I take an approach where it's a single AI point and then I push my AI to other channels, or let it live without the ecosystem? So there's really a variety of ways in which we can kind of approach the solution. Ultimately, when we see an AI data foundation, we really kind of see this as a standard foundation that exists today where your AI powered databases like your data lake and data warehouses are being fed from these internal data storage solutions, all of the enterprise data that you have today. This batch loading of data, then the normalization of the data, then the usability of the data all happens within these AI powered databases. And ultimately, what tends to happen, if this even happens at all within an organization, is that AI output then needs to be made accessible to the customer experience channels to actually create value from this AI output. So really, we see this as kind of the standard of deploying an AI project today. But ultimately, there's a couple areas in which we kind of see friction within this. The getting data in, the normalization of the data, and the using of the data itself is actually an issue for many organizations. Additionally, the getting data from your data warehouse or the data set to your customer experience channels, this also can cause delays because it's actually a handoff from this. The AI output may be delayed. And so really we kind of see this as, yes, we can do deployments with this, but I think there's a better way to approach it. When we bring Telium into the mix, we see organizations connecting directly to those real-time customer interaction channels. And the reason that Telium is connecting directly to those is we have our ability to stream data via SDK or Pixel or API, bring it into the Telium platform, leverage our flexible schema to standardize data in your business terminology in real time and help normalize data across these different data points, as well as apply consent and directly to that data set so that we know that we can use this data or we know that we shouldn't use this data in our AI models, and leverage our identity and profiling and building out these contextual attributes inside of the profile and ultimately making this data available to these AI models in a real-time fashion. So what this has done is it's taken our standard project of deploying AI, but it's actually built on top of it a way of getting data faster in a usable way for these AI models. Ultimately, if we're just feeding a data warehouse, though, we're not actually getting value from the AI. We're just creating insights. In order to really get value from the AI, you actually bring it out and then make it accessible to the channels in which are going to increase revenue by increasing conversion or decreasing overall cost, right? That's how we get value as an organization. And so with this, we really need a way of bringing data out, and Telium helps with this, directly to associate it to an individual and then deploying it in those individual customer experience channels. And this is how we view a customer data foundation that is ready for AI. So this is kind of the holistic view of the SDKs, the APIs, the streaming nature of it, the unification of data, and then the association directly with the AI-powered databases. And this in itself is a great foundation to work from, but there's a reason behind this. And the reason is that today we have large models in large data sets training on the AI, and these models are doing really well, creating an AI output. But ultimately, we're going to see AI evolve across the ecosystem, starting with smaller models on the edge of your customer experience channels, which we're seeing today, whether it be generative content directly in your email creation or optimizing ad spend based on those media campaigns that are running. These smaller models running on the edge are going to exist in every customer experience tool, and they all rely on usable data around the individual that's going to power these models and create the best output. Additionally, we're going to see smaller models on device, and we're already seeing that in the new phones on the market. What this means is they can actually deploy models directly on device that will actually run on the data set which Telium can provide, so that you can create an AI experience without having to make the entire network trip back. Why this is important is that a smaller model on device, if you're running an AI experience, you may need to use a tool like Telium to collect the data, reach out to your external AI database, return back the information, and make it available to actually personalize the experience. That works in hundreds of milliseconds, and it actually works today and creates great AI experiences. But ultimately, if there's a connectivity issue, then that interaction won't happen. You won't actually deliver that AI experience. With smaller models on device, you will be able to do that. You'll be able to have a smaller model that's focused on a specific data set, run, create an AI experience, and many organizations like the cruise industry will actually benefit greatly directly from running smaller models on device, because then they won't have to worry about connectivity issues with streaming this data through these different data sets. Additionally, we're going to have AI with inside of Telium and all of your various other platforms. So AI is really spread across the ecosystem. And we see this proliferation of AI, and having this right data foundation is the right approach to actually making and powering all these AI specific experiences.
Sounds great, Drew, but let's talk about organizational issues. We want to make this a reality. How do organizational issues stand in the way sometimes of high quality data and AI adoption? Sav?
Yeah, the quote I heard recently was AI adoption is moving at the speed of organizational change. And that felt like such an appropriate quote, because at the end of the day, AI is not just an application. Yes, of course it's an application. It's not just a use case. It's not just a technology. It is all those things, but more than that, it's an operation. It's like a big machinery, and you can only move it if everything, all the parts of the machinery move together. And that's really, I think, what we are noticing. Our customers are telling us, what we're noticing in the market is people expect it to be a lot easier. They expect it to be like other software, that I went and bought an AI tool, I went and got an AI partner, and now I should be able to do it. But there's just so many pieces that go together, and you don't realize that they don't move at the same speed. So what happens a lot of times is, if I use this crawl, walk, run maturity framework that is oversimplified but a great way to just align, and I'm going to leave out all the crawl that you would do to get the training data ready and get an application off the ground. But imagine that the simplest progress is getting one AI use case in production. Now, just for the audience, average less than 30% of all AI use cases in the world are in production right now. And it's just one of those things that you think a lot more people have success, but they actually don't. It's very hard. So imagine that crawl is getting one use case off the ground, and then walk, which is the next stage, could be you take that one model or that one use case and you get it across multiple channels, or maybe you get many different use cases going across your ecosystem. Either one could be considered the next progress, like a walk, and then run could be where AI is default and you're thinking of all these strategies. So I'm just wanted to show you what crawl, walk, run means in these categories, but let's use our typical, people, process, technology, data layers in this crawl, walk, run, and then we'll add AI as the fifth layer. So most people think that the way crawl, walk, run works is you do crawl, everybody gets to crawl, and then you do walk, and then everybody's at walk, and then everybody's at run. And what's happening is we're just moving nicely in this little progression, but that is not at all how it works. And that's why it's so frustrating. And, to your question, it's the organizational change, why it becomes a factor is because how it really moves is you do crawl, you do your first project, and then let's say you need a piece of technology, you go buy that. And technology is advancing much faster than organization. So the technology capability will jump us all the way to the end. And we think, oh, now I should be able to do this. But the people, the process, that doesn't just jump forward on its own. And then you go get an AI model or maybe an AI partner, and now AI is ready. Like Drew showed you, you can have AI across your ecosystem. So you think, great, I can do it. Again, it won't happen. And most of our customers are sitting at this point. And what's happening is they're expecting the people and process to just come forward, but the people and process cannot happen unless the data foundation happens first. And I'll give you an example. Back when we were trying to go from single channel to cross channel in terms of strategy and thought process and analytics, till you had the cross channel data and the cross channel report, you couldn't truly make cross channel decisions. You couldn't make omni-channel strategies till you had the full data in front of you. So the data foundation really had to go first. And then when the data foundation became cross-channel, then the people and process were able to come along, right? Same thing's happening with AI. The data foundation becomes the blocker when you're trying to do AI. So till you have this data foundation, the people and process won't happen. And then again, when you try to go to the next layer, AI will jump forward, and now the people have the strategy in their brain and they understand how this stuff works. So they start getting excited, but you again need the data first before the process can come along. So that's really the main takeaway, is the organizational change is a lot more entrenched into the AI evolution, and the dependency of people and process happens to be on the data foundation. And those three things really is what hold you back, because that's how everybody gets there. They have to learn what they need, then they have to get it, and then everybody can think the next stage. So this is something we've been talking about with all our customers, and it's more frustrating because you don't realize where you are lagging behind, and you expect it to be a lot easier when it's actually not.
So, how would you describe an organization that has actually made AI into a way of life?
That's such a great question. The way I think about it is AI helps me make better decisions. AI helps me go faster. AI helps me be more efficient, be more productive. So if I am using AI in all the decisions that are critical, is this the right customer? Will this customer come back? How much money can I make from this customer? So how much should I spend on this customer? What's the right offer to show to this customer? Which audience should I go after for this product? How much money should I spend on these? There's so many decisions that we make in our marketing and advertising strategies. If we can start making all our big decisions AI fueled, and we know how to do it, and we know which AI model to use, which data sets to use, how to activate that output, when that becomes default, when you can apply that to pretty much any decision or any content that you're creating because of Gen AI now, I would say that would mean that it's a way of life. It's still not easy, and it doesn't mean you would be able to stand every use case up that you want to. But when you think that way, and when you know everybody's able to work with you along, I would say that looks like way of life. I don't know, Drew, if you agree.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, it's the accessibility, right? And so we talked about this. Is the data accessible? Are the tools accessible? And then if you have both those things combined, is the team able to actually incorporate the right tools, the right AI technology based on their decisions in which they need to make? So ultimately, AI in the way of life is, yes, it incorporates all those things Sav mentioned, the technology, the people, the process, but really, having that accessible to the teams across the organization is the way in which it becomes the way of life.
Drew, continuing along, how can Telium help with this?
Yeah, Telium solves a couple of the big challenges in which we are able to highlight within that data foundation, and it's really the time in which it takes to actually get data in a usable state. That is one of the biggest challenges in which we see. If we talk about the actual teams that are running the models, deploying the models, and using the data, we don't want those teams to be focused on, oh, why is this element formatted in a weird way? Why is it called this? And my models can't understand this element because of the way it's labeled or the way it's named. And so we help take a lot of that off of any of the data teams so that you can now have accessible data in a usable format. Additionally, we start to incorporate the other channels in which we can actually collect data from. Most of the time when we think about the AI models themselves, they'll look to say, hey, what customer data do I have today? But most of the time they're not asking is, what are all my customer touch points and do I have the right ones to feed my AI models? Telium helps open up this accessibility of data from those various touch points and the ability to stream it in a real-time nature. Additionally, as we talked a little bit in the beginning, is what is the value of the AI output? So much value comes from the insight of the AI output, which is incredible, right? It is giving our information back to the organization to make decisions. But ultimately, when we talk about does it influence what the customer is doing to actually make decisions, whether it be converting in a different way or preventing churn or reducing our overall cost for what we're spending to acquire that customer, that is where the business value comes. And so what Telium helps out with is actually take that AI output directly from wherever it lives within your ecosystem and make it available to those customer experience teams or those personalization teams so that they then can go act upon that. And they're doing that in a real-time nature. So if someone is browsing on your website and doing certain things, We may be feeding a model and making a decision like, hey, this person is likely to not convert, but I think we have a chance to actually convert them. And then Telium will help make sure that that data is available so that your teams are actually creating that customer experience. Maybe we influence them in some way. Maybe we create a different experience, right? Telium is the behind the scenes tool that allows you to collect that data and then make that data available so that your teams can make the right decision on what they're displaying to the customer to get them to act in that moment.
And to add to that, what's happening is we've been trying to get all the data into one place for so long. We were trying to centralize all our first party data. We were trying to make it unified. And now AI suddenly is not unified anymore. AI has become distributed. AI is all across my ecosystem. So yes, it's really amazing to have that one big data set to give me the centralized insights and decision making, but I still need data elements and AI scores all over my ecosystem now. So that's becoming the next frontier, I think, that everybody's trying to unlock is what does my real-time connectivity look like across my whole ecosystem?
Well, I'm wondering, does Telium require any special data science expertise?
At Telium, we know exactly what we're not, and we're not a data science toolbox. And so really where we see our data science team living and working are those true AI toolboxes in which they want to perform. We're very built for actually like the data architecture team or a data orchestration team and a data engineer itself. And so allowing them to actually make sure they're collecting the data in the correct manner, making sure they're allowed to standardize the data in the correct manner. So the data engineer is taking a lot of the tasks off of them or giving them a new tool themselves to actually bring in new data sets. While the data science team is going to be more focused on to say, hey, great, my data is already here. It's in a format that's understandable by my AI models. Let me go test out these different AI models. Let me go train them based on different criteria and different data elements. And so we can start tweaking these models. And then they can focus on deploying these models to production, right? And so we really actually take a lot of the lift off the data scientist. So we're actually not used by the data scientists. We're taking work off of them because we're helping out with the data preparation as well as the data activation beyond it. And so we see ourselves still living within the data teams, like a data architecture team or a data engineering team, but not as much the data science team.
So, Drew, continuing along, how can organizations get started with Telium?
A great way is to contact Telium and kind of discuss on how we're going to fit within your tech stack. At the end of the day, we know there's many tools out there on the market. We know that you as an organization have various tech stacks in which you already use today, and you most hopefully use them very successfully. We ultimately want to know, where do we fit within an organization? What is the right set of technologies that we need to use in combination with Telium to make sure that you have the ultimate data foundation to power that AI initiative in which you're having and helping deploy those AI outcomes, those AI outputs directly in those customer experience channels. So ultimately, contact us and we'll help work with to understand where we fit directly within your architecture and ultimately leading an organization to where you can be truly an AI agile organization.
Sav, we're almost at the end of our time, but on the road to AI everywhere, what should members of our audience keep in mind?
You know, the best advice I can give anybody working with AI is it's about progress, not perfection. AI is all about incremental change. AI is all about evolution. AI is all about learning as you go. Very, very rare to just hit it out of the park right away. And even if you have success with one AI model like probabilistic or propensity, does not mean you'll be great at Gen AI and vice versa. So don't get discouraged with any failure and don't get overconfident with any success. Just focus on each win and use that to build the next one and the next one.
That's great information and great advice. Thank you. Well, that is all the time we have in this video webcast. Sincere thanks to our two experts, Sav Gatan and Drew Halsh of Telium. Thanks to both for explaining the need for AI maturity and high-quality data for AI, and how Telium technology can help to create the solid data foundation that organizations need for success with AI. For more information on this topic, please see the resources area of your webcast player, and thanks so much for joining us. For Telium and CIO, I'm Stan Gibson.